Welcome to Colour Television and the ABC, the Aboriginal Broadcasting Commission. This is your intrepid reporter Gary Foley, coming to you from the set of Dogs in Space, a film which really highlights the decadence to which Western civilization has sunk. What's a handsome, intelligent, vibrant young man like myself doing here? I wonder myself.
Troy's sweetheart treasure.
I just love doing makeup because it makes me feel complete. You know what I mean? It makes me feel really complete.
Okay, I just think it would be really good if we had the photograph of you.
So Troy, tell me what you're doing here.
About 3,000, I got one too.
No, I'm just hanging around really. It's okay though. Like the people are really nice and stuff. It's okay. I've had quite a good time really. Being away from home is sort of hard sometimes, but I've learned to cope. Thank God they put Tampax in those smaller packs. It's sort of good, sort of camping. We haven't travelled or anything. We've been to different locations. It's been really fun. Martin's been great. He's been having really good fun with knives and stuff. It's been great. I think he's finding a new part of himself too. We all are really. It's a kind of strange shoot.
I've come to this decision quite late yesterday that the entire film is fucked.
Now,
there's quite a number of crew members on this film that I find, and cast members I might say, that I find do not respect my opinion in any way, do not appreciate me as a human being, and I find myself, even though contracted, I find myself wanting to disappear off the set right at this moment. And I know I'm contracted, I know they can sue me, but basically I'm willing to go to jail for this.
Now Glennis
because I am
now Glennis Rowe, the producer.
Upset.
Now Glennis
I was
Rowe,
wondering if you could drop in for about 10 minutes tomorrow on your way to set. So I want to have a talk with you.
Right, okay then. Now Glennis just left the room because of what Richard said.
We're 10 days behind and going fast.
Thank you, Richard. Well, partly was Richard, the director, of course, because he's fantastic. But the main thing was the script. When I read the script, first of all, I felt like I was reading a documentary, and I'd always been much more passionate about documentary films. All the first films I'd ever seen, much more passionate about documentary films than I ever had been about Hollywood feature films. My own first love is the documentary, and this film, although it's a feature film, a drama, is in some ways a lot like a social documentary. It's extraordinarily true to form, true to nature. Richard's written it from life. It's exquisitely correct. Yeah, sure.
So how do you feel about the amount of people that turned up?
I'm thrilled and relieved because we actually had no idea whether we'd get 200 or 2,000.
What would you have done with 2,000?
We would have had to call in D24 and politely ask people to leave, I suppose. But no, we took a calculated risk and it has thankfully worked.
Yeah.
We put out very specific press announcements, 2 areas where we knew we'd get 1, the right kind of people, and 2, the right quantity of people.
What do you think about the turnout tonight?
Actually, it's pretty good. A motley bunch of people, but they're all right.
It's going to be fairly uncontrollable to film.
I think the longer it gets.
Yeah, it's really early. We haven't even done one take yet. We've got 3 shoots to do.
But we did a party scene the other day, and it looks fantastic. Everyone was waiting around for hours, you know, because it takes a long time. Because the shots are really different. They're really long, like big, long tracking shots.
They're realistic.
And
today, it's very good.
it's pretty time-consuming, but once it's done, it looks great.
We didn't want to make a film. You know how you sometimes see commercials that are directed at young people, but they're obviously made by 50-year-olds and they miss the beat. We didn't want to have that sense of the film, and it was really important to everybody that the crew who are working on the film understand the nature of the film. So the crew's been kept young.
Young? These boys aren't young. Well, a lot of the crew members are people I've worked with before. And some of them even go back to Swinburne, which is the film school we all went to back in the time this film's being made, actually, 78, 79, that era. And I tend to prefer to work in an environment where I can depend. I trust the people and trust them as filmmakers, not only as technicians. And you find a lot of the people on this crew are quite qualified filmmakers in their own right, so that I can depend on them for a variety of jobs rather than just the job that they're doing at the time.
Oh, 79 was when, let's see, I was 19. I just joined up with In Excess in a sort of serious way. Just before that, this was my sort of surroundings, more or less. So I guess it was a transformation time, a time to actually figure your own ideas about the means to the end, or justify the experience, translate it into something maybe constructive for once, for me.
Right. Are you happy with the way your characters, you've seen Rushes Every Night, are you happy with the way your character looks as a Sam character?
Yeah, it's just maintaining it, keeping it consistent.
This is your first feature film, isn't it?
Yes.
Good. This is your first feature film. Do you feel comfortable doing it? Do you like acting?
Yeah.
You do?
It's enjoyable.
Would you like to do more acting after this? You like working with Richard?
If it turns out all right. I might never do any more acting.
They mightn't ask you.
Yeah, that's right.
Do you like, now you've worked with Richard before on clips, do you find clips are different?
Yeah, totally different, because you have to look into the camera in a clip usually. And so, yeah, totally different. I mean, you're more used to having cameras around you, but it doesn't make any difference. In a film clip you have hundreds of people. In movies you have dozens of people around you.
Now, you've worked with the band for how many years? How many years have you been together?
8 years.
8 years. Hold on. Now, you've worked with the band for 8 years. Do you almost, and you've travelled and everything, and you've had holidays and stuff, but do you actually miss them? Do you almost wish they were in the film sometimes?
No.
Not at all?
No.
It's completely separate?
Yeah.
And are you discovering anything new in yourself that you've got through acting?
Actually, it's been... getting away from music is the best thing about it. I'm discovering things about our music by being away from it, more than anything.
An objective.
Yeah, it's the first time I've done anything else for a long time.
Ed, now in the film you're singing, you're doing a couple of songs. Are you singing as Michael Hutchence or are you singing as Sam?
As the character.
As the character. That should be interesting. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Troy.
Rolling?
Okay. Nick, why did you take this role?
Oh Christ. Why did I take this role? Because
you must have been offered lots of different films, and there was a film that was offered to you to work at the same time as this one.
Well, this is sort of... I was 17 in 1979, and this whole scene I was sort of involved in, so it's pretty interesting that someone's come along and actually going to make a film about it.
How were you involved in this scene? Were you in a band or something?
Yeah, I was in a couple of bands, and I was just a kid sort of hanging around trying to have a good time at the time, and lived in a similar house to the house they're making this film about. There was about 5 houses like this all over town, and
So looking back, how do you feel about those times then?
God, I can hardly remember them. This is pretty wild, because you sort of think, oh God, I was in this situation, but as someone else.
After reading the script, I mean, your character to me seems to be like the comic observer of what's going on.
Yeah, well, Tim was a bit straighter than everyone else. He seemed to have a goal. He was going to film school. He went to film school at the same time Richard did. And so I think he kept his brain together more than a lot of the other characters did.
Is that one of the big problems of those times, is that people didn't really have a goal, they were sort of aimless and searching?
I don't know about searching, I think aimless though, because there didn't seem to be any need to do anything. You got the dole, which was, when I was 17, it was $32 a week, and you sort of spent that on having a good time, and no one was really searching for anything except fun. Fun was the key word.
And did you have fun?
Lots. That's why I can't remember.
How do you like working with Richard? Have you worked with him before?
No, I've never worked with Richard, but Richard's really good because he's not. I mean, he's sort of not much older than me, and he's prepared to take risks and like get right into it.
So Richard, where did you get these eyebrows from? How did this happen?
Well, this was a sort of trend the camera department started about
an hour and a half ago.
Yeah.
In sort of frustration at the growing downpour.
Yeah, right.
That was ruining the day's shoot.
It was like something, a sort of release.
That's true.
Yeah.
And it all started with Mandy putting funny little things just here.
She used to wear a moustache.
That's right.
264, take one.
Second clap.
Second clap.
Second clap. I'm Andy. I'm Steve.
I'm Mandy.
I'm Paul, and we're the camera department.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
What?
Ready?
Ready?
Yeah. No. Bloody hell.
And then Dean started, and then I thought, well, wacko, what have we got to lose? Let's annoy Ross the boss and act like kids.
Right. Ross
and
the fucking boss.
And that's exactly what happened.
And he was
heard to say quite loudly, this is not a $2 million party.
I know, it's not, is it? I thought it was.
1.9.
It's a $1.9 million party.
Interview with Troy, dogs in space on location. Hi. How I got involved in the film. I suppose I worked with Richard for a long time on rock clips and stuff, and I helped out on Strikebound in acting, but actually I'm doing makeup on this film, but I got put off for the night, so I'm acting. I got two small roles, one as a brother of a girl who moves into the house of one of the main characters, and two as the skinhead with my friend here, Pauline, who plays my skinhead girlfriend, though she's not talking. And that's about it.
What are you doing for us?
What are you doing? What am I doing for you? An interview? An interview?
No, you're interviewing.
Oh, and I interviewed Richard and interviewing some people for what we're doing now. And I also know Lucy.
Well, it's pretty strange to be acting with people who aren't actors, but it's also really interesting.
Do you get good feedback from them? I mean, do they work as actors? I mean, do you still find that buzz happens between characters?
Well, I think actors have the ability to make magic happen. They're given 17 different pieces of information and you can make magic happen. But if you're not an actor, or you just don't know certain techniques, then that's more difficult.
So it's more like people...
But then that's more up to Richard, you know, to make that magic happen.
On location, dogs in space, interviewing Mr. Lowenstein concerning dogs in space. Now, Richard, why Samuel as the star of Dogs in Space? Was it because you lived in the house and you thought Sam was the most interesting character to base the film around?
No, it was not really the most... I mean, he's one of the integral characters. The story is about a group of people in the house and visiting the house, and it's really trying to capture all the different subgroups and subcultures that were around in the late 70s. Like the dying out of the hippie era and the death of student politics and the growth of the punk era, and it seemed like a quite an important time of a certain creativity in the arts and music and things like that actually happens in cycles, like it happened in the hippie era, it happened in the beat era.
Now, why did you decide to make Dogs in Space? Did you think back on the house when you were making Evictions? Did any of that why aren't you in the film? Why isn't someone portraying you in the film?
Which question should I answer?
Well, answer the why did you make Dogs in Space?
Why did I make Dogs in Space? Because I thought it was the house as I remember it. I thought it was quite a good model for a microcosm of what I was saying before about all the different groups that were around in that era. And why I'm not in the film, well, I actually am in the film, but all my incidences are spread
throughout the
passed onto other characters, because frankly I just thought there was too many characters in the film and I tried to cut down a lot of them.
In real life, think in the house in 1979 when you were making Evictions, were you more of an observer, or could you see yourself in that group? If you weren't making the film, or you were writing the film and someone like you was actually in real life, would you have written yourself in as opposed to splitting yourself up amongst other characters?
Yeah, I was definitely
one of them.
The one sort of tied in quite strongly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, Rosanne?
Rolling.
Okay, Sam.
Do you find it difficult playing the part of somebody that you actually know and is sort of someone you're sort of familiar with in real life?
Sorry.
Or does that make doing the part easier?
No, it makes it easier to observe a character in a physical sense, and probably from talking to the person to understand their concepts of how they run their thoughts and things. But it makes it very hard to retain you have to retain some distance as well.
I'm sure you do.
Yeah.
Do you think you're actually anything like this character?
Yeah, perhaps, yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't know whether to agree with that or not, but what were you actually doing in 1979 or 1980 at the time of this?
79, 80 was I'd sort of, where was I? I was sort of just out playing the pubs, I think, around Sydney and Melbourne.
And did you, like this particular sort of scene that sort of existed at the time, were you ever a part of it, or did you know it was going on? Or?
Yeah, well this scene that at this time is that this movie is set in is fairly mixed. I mean, you can take little bits from all over the place and put yourself in it. You probably find some little niche that you could put yourself in. I think anybody could, but I think when I was much earlier, 16, 17, I was more involved in a sort of, how do you put it, a different sort of lifestyle than I was a few years later. It was much more.
Would you have been up in Sydney?
Yeah, I would have just got sort of left home in Sydney, living in a house with a bunch of people.
Yeah, I suppose it's the same for everyone,
it's
really, isn't it?
Fairly much. It's the Australian way, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, get together, cheap rent.
Indeed. Is that enough?
Can you tell me in no longer than 5-minute monologue what your reaction to "Thank You, We're Back" is?
Well, in a nutshell, a film nutshell, thank you, we're back. What thoughts are conscious
What does it bring up, the first feeling you feel when you hear it? A feeling of nausea rising?
Nausea, basically. Yes. Actually, the man who says thank you, we're back has just walked into the room.
It's thank you, we're back.
Thank you, we're back.
Grinder. Back and grinder.